chart of cost, you will see that line flatten out a little bit because of the 2010 results. The other thing I wanted to point out, and Commissioner Price, you brought up the unfunded liability question. This is a headline you're seeing out there, trillions of dollars of unfunded liability in pension plans. Typically, in pension plans that are in trouble, you're seeing two things. One, they're not making the required contributions to fund the benefits. Legislatures aren't putting the money in that's required to fund those benefits over those employees' careers. The second thing that you will see is that pension plans are rolling debt into the future. In your plan, that's not happening. When all the plans in our system, 100% of the employers pay the required rate. The other thing we have in place is what's called a 20-year closed amortization period. So if you have unfunded amounts, it's like having a 20-year fixed rate mortgage on a house. It gets paid down, and that's what that drop-off is after 20 years. Our board just adopted that a couple years ago, and it's the most conservative funding policy in the state, and it's one of the most conservative nationally. Okay, on page 13, this is an estimate of your liabilities to your assets. So the green area is a projection of your assets over time, and the liabilities is that top line, and that red area is a projection of your unfunded, and you can see it diminishing over time. That's a result of that fixed 20-year period where you're paying that liability off. And that's just a function of your rate. When you pay that 9.4% of payroll, you're paying this down in 20 years, and you're paying off your current employees' benefits over their careers.
Can I ask a question? For those that are on the variable rate and they do things like COLAs and different things like that, all the add-ons, would their accrued liability show a much wider gap? Are they totally funded?
Well, it depends on the plan. If you adopt a cost of living adjustment for retirees to help compensate them for inflation, you're making an immediate increase in retirees' benefits, and you haven't saved in advance over their careers.
Right.
So you have an immediate unfunded liability.
So do you give them 20 years to?
And actually, COLAs are funded over 15 years.
Okay.
So we have all sorts of different experiences. I mean, some employers have an unfunded due to COLAs if they're routinely passing them. We have other employers, like I was just in Rockwall County last week, and they actually pay for the unfunded amount. They decide to do a COLA, and then they pay for it up front.
They pay for it.
Yeah, so they're fully funded, but yeah.
They have cash reserves back out of their budget. So, yeah,
exactly.
nice.
So everybody's different,
really.
But the one thing is that no matter what you're doing, it will pay off over 15 years. The one thing we really try to educate employers, if you're passing repeated COLAs, those unfunded amounts will stack up on each other for 15 years. So you just got to be prepared for that. They do cause a rate increase over time, unless you're
It's the same
paying
thing for
down.
Rule 75. All of those things would either increase this gap if they run it over 15 or 20 years to a larger pay down.
The vesting's changing vesting or the eligibility probably doesn't impact that quite as much. It would just slightly, but it doesn't have as large of an impact. Typically, COLAs and investment return.
COLA has the largest impact.
It has the route, yeah.
If you do a 3% COLA today, it's 3% increase
To everybody.
Individual.
Right.
And then, of course, you do it a second time, you've now compounded it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why that clearly is the
It's the biggest driver.
thing that
Yeah.
the variable rate plan offers.
I think it was like $1 million to go to the Rule 75, but then when you add the other stuff on,
I thought it was more than that.
like 3.
It would. Yeah,
Could've been
it's considerably more than that. In fact, that's the number one question we get from our employees.
the Rule of 75,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
we changed the
Yeah.
rule.
Yeah.
And we can't, we can't afford to
Yeah.
change it.
Yeah. Just a few other points about your plan. One thing is that employees are putting their own money into the plan. It's a savings-based plan. It's very unique. We only know of a couple of others in the country that are like this. Many of the plans, especially some of the ones you see up in the Northeast, they're in trouble. Employees don't put their own money into the plan. They're fully employer funded. You get the power of advance funding as employees are putting in money over their career. It's important that you know that you have control to reduce your benefits if costs get too high. We talked about the funding policy, and we talked about the low-cost investment management administration. So that's my report on your plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if you have questions about anything in the media or possible legislation or anything, I'd be happy to answer.
Possible legislation.
Yeah.
Well, the last time, we thought we had an agreement with some possible legislation, and we got kind of torpedoed there at the last minute, if you'll remember, Mr. Wells.
I asked them, they don't have any legislative proposals.
Yeah, we do not
Well,
have,
last time we asked them, I don't think they had any legislative proposals.
Oh, is that where we were added in? Oh, well, I think some of it's coming out y'all this time
Right.
instead of him.
Right.
So,
Well, I understand.
yeah, I don't
We're
think
not-
that's
we're
going to be a
not-
problem, yeah.
yeah, we're not
Got-
taking any
got good
legislation
members.
forward to
But,
the,
They tried
I
to.
remember recently that there was the gubernatorial election in California, and one of the candidates for election wanted to have a 401k type of program. Of course, their pension system is really pulling the state down financially, has pulled it down. What is the law regarding a 401k kind of plan? Is that illegal in Texas, or is there some reason that we can't go to a system like that?
well, I believe you have the option to offer a 457 plan if you want.
457?
Right.
Which is basically a 401k?
Yes,
Yeah.
for governmental entities. In terms of, changing TCD structure, it would require a statute. Or if you wanted to get out of the system, it would require a statutory change. Currently, counties, when you adopt in the plan, there's not a provision for counties to get out of the plan. We do have a provision for districts to get out, and one of the reasons is because districts aren't permanent entities. For example, I think over the 40-year history of TCD, we've had 19 districts get out of the plan. And it's typically because, in fact, they've all been because either a hospital's been privatized or a water district's been taken in by a city. And so we have to have a reasonable way to shut down the plan so that the members get their accrued benefits. And we have that in place. But counties, there's no statutory authority that. You guys do all support each other. So as counties would have to decide if we wanted the ability to opt out, if we had a couple large counties go, it could change the
Affect the
cost
entire
structure.
plan.
Right, it could change the cost structure of the plan.
So there's never been a county that went to the 457 plan?
They've not gotten out. We have a lot of,
They don't have a statutory
we have a lot
authority.
of counties that offer a supplemental plan through 457, but we have never had anybody try to get out and then go solely into a 401k.
What's the cost structure for offering that supplement to our employees? Would that just be we'd set it up and they could put their money in if they chose to, or is there a cost to us on the 457?
There are administrative fees. You could probably speak to that better than I can.
Offer through PepsiCo, a
Right.
plan where an
Yeah.
employee could put money in their
Deferred.
supplemental
It's called
retirement fund.
Deferred.
There's no match, there's nothing related to put on the employer's side.
Okay.
Right.
They
If
tank
you
when
were
the
to
stock
opt-
market tanks.
Simplistically, if you were to opt out of this plan and go to a 457, you would have a short-term cost, but a long-term gain. Because what she pointed out, and rightfully so, 25% of our people were putting in the match, and they never retire. And so the moment you go to the 457, you would no longer be putting match in there for these people who aren't ever going to retire because you're going to throw it into the 457 and it becomes theirs, not helping fund other people's retirement. So there would be a short term, I don't know what.
Well, theirs after they vest, though, correct?
It's theirs after they vest, but remember that
But
we're
you
taking
did- oh.
investing, so that's why 25% of our people never make investing. So you're losing funds that were going into there to cover those people who are investing. So you would have a short-term cost. I just never put them.
Because on a 457, the federal law is a maximum 6-year vest, right? Is that
I
right?
believe so.
Well,
I believe so.
yeah, but I'm going to tell
I
you,
don't know if you'd have a long-term gain, because your vest would shrink almost in half.
The one thing to
Well-
think about too is when you're comparing like a plan like TCDRS versus a 401k, that we've seen studies that ask the question, what's more cost effective if you're going to provide the same benefit? And when you see a large pooled plan like TCDRS, we can typically provide the same benefit for half. I mean, that's the kicker. Are you going to get the same benefit? And there's 3 reasons why. The first thing is that we're forever young. If you're an individual investing for yourself, as you age, you typically have to get more conservative in your investments so you don't have things happen like 2008 and lose everything right before you retire. We're managing for 215,000 lives, so we don't have to get more conservative as a single individual ages. The second reason is that there's lots of studies that show that professional investment management outperforms individuals. I always tell the story about my mom after 2008. She called me and she said, Amy, I just sold all my stocks. I couldn't afford to lose anymore. And I go, oh my gosh, Mom, you just lost it. But so you typically see professional investment management outperform by 2% a year, and over a lifetime, that's a large number. The third reason is that as an individual, you typically have to oversave because you don't want to outlive your money, whereas in a plan like this, you get a lifetime benefit. And we're pooling lives. I think it sounds kind of, I don't know, a little bit cynical or something, but that's what we're doing. We've got, some people live longer than we expect, some people live shorter than we expect, but on average, actually those assumptions were usually pretty spot on. Those are the easier ones to get. So those are some of the reasons when you're looking, is you want to think about comparing the same benefit, what's more cost effective. I was seeing an interesting statistic the other day, and it was talking about people that are required to go into a mandatory 401k plan, and they get the investments done for them in a target-based fund, something like 80% withdrawal, and so at some point over their lifetime. So that's the other thing to think about. You will have retirement benefits. I think last year we put almost $700 million back into the state of Texas in benefits all over the state, and 96% of what we pay out stays in Texas.
What's our employee satisfaction with, or if you know, with your plan?
Well, we do survey. I don't have it by employer, but we do surveys after we provide services. We've got a couple things. We go out in the field and do member presentations, and then also as we have interactions with folks that call into our member services center and go through the retirement process, we survey employees and retirees, and we have very high satisfaction results. And in fact, we'd be happy to come out, a number of things, come out and do member presentations. I think we do. We've been out quite a bit, 2 times, yeah. And then the second thing that Christina can do is if you are considering any benefit changes, we have tools at our fingertips that we can rerun those benefit projections and rerun your cost projections for you so that you can see what you're getting.
Depends on what the employee's comparing to.
Yeah,
if
really.
It's where they get COLAs, ours may not, but if it goes to 401k, I guarantee you what it'd be, their satisfaction.
Exactly.
What do we think, y'all? Y'all like this one?
Thank you. Very interesting. Appreciate it.
Can you just send us some of those surveys? You say that after you provide services.
We can send results, yeah.
Would you just for me?
That'd be great.
Check.
Well, thank you. I'm going to make sure we set up that meeting with Commissioner Judge Jenkins and folks from TCDRS and Ryan Brown to go over this. This time, Mr. Ames, the tax assessor collector, has a brief presentation of his tax office year in review.
Good morning, Judge Jenkins, commissioners, and staff.
Good morning.
Certainly a pleasure to be here this morning to tell you a little bit about the progress that we've made in the tax office for the last couple of years. My office runs concurrent with the president, so when he took office and put his cabinet together, I started putting mine together. So I'd like to introduce those folks today. These are the people who are my eyes and ears. They're the division directors out there. If they'd stand up, please, as I introduce them. We have Ms. Shirley Jacobson, the Chief Deputy. Betty Holland, my Director of Accounting. Norman Cassell, the Director of Processes and Initiatives. Wendy Fuquay, who's been with us for over 20 years, our IT Director. Debbie Jones, who's been with us for 28 years, so she enjoyed that retirement presentation right then. Motor Vehicle Director. Corey Warsham, my Property Tax Director. Candy Scarzo, who couldn't be with us today because her mother's in the hospital, so keep their family in your prayers. is my customer care center manager. Darlene Beck is my special assistant. Patsy Gray is my executive assistant who retires on Monday. So Patsy, after 12 years, 6 months, and 1 day, Dallas County will be leaving us. And then Monica Sims, who will be taking Patsy's position. These men and women behind me work together to make all these successes come through. We are
All right, let's
success-
give it up for those people.
I like this. This is going to go good. We can do all kinds of things because they're so good at their job. Okay, so 3 years ago when I decided to run for this office, I told the citizens that I would do 3 major things. I'd improve customer service in the tax office, I'd mail the tax statements timely, and we would process the backlog.
First time in
of refunds.
25 years.
I'm getting there, Commissioner. Don't steal my presentation.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
First thing we did was we started by improving the customer service. We established a
That's right,
mission
yeah.
in the Dallas County Tax Office. Our mission is to provide the citizens of Dallas County with excellent service using innovative technology to ensure quality collections. We changed the name of the TIU, the Telephone Information Unit, to the Customer Care Center because that's what they do. They provide citizens with the assistance they need. We analyzed the tax office staffing and reallocated 3 full-time employees to the Customer Care Center. The results from that are pretty amazing. In 2008, it took 103 seconds to answer a phone call. 2010, it took 34 seconds. Our abandoned calls went from being 55,000 annually just to over 8,500. So in 2008, 55,000 people got tired of hearing the phone ring and hung up. In 2010, 8,500 of them. And most of those 8,500 listened to the front-end greeting, got our address and our location and hours, got what they needed, and hung up. They didn't need to talk to a representative. Our service level went from in 2008 being 48% to just over 77%. Your service level in a call center is the amount of calls that you answer in 20 seconds or less. That's amazing. The citizens of Dallas are actually getting to the tax office and getting the information they need. We also revamped and updated the website to make it more customer-friendly and accessible, and we created a customer-focused attitude in all our offices. We now say, how can we help you, instead of, we can't do that. Property tax statements. In 2009, they were mailed on October 5th, the earliest in 20 years. 2010, they were mailed on October 4th, the earliest in 21 years. What did that do for us? The October collections from 2008 to 2009 went up 1,500%. That's amazing. We collected $59 million in October 2009 that we didn't have in October 2008. That meant that we put the revenue in the pockets of the cities and the schools in the county when they most needed it at the beginning of their fiscal year. I
Great
didn't give
job.
him any money, I promise.
Yeah.
You do a phenomenal job, and you deserve it. So go ahead.
We replaced the duplicate tax statements with postcards, which saved the citizens of Dallas County $26,000 and $44,000 for the last 2 years. What that also did was it reduced the duplicate payments we received, the refunds, and the research request. By getting tax statements out on time, we reduced the December and January month-end rush to the public. And in 2009, we increased collections. They went from 98.13% to 98.28%. That 0.15% increase in collections meant Dallas County got $559,000 it wouldn't have gotten the year before.
And what did you do to
I would clap, but John's on. I was Commissioner Price on when I clap, you know.
You can hold it to the end.
Hold on, my applause to the end, all right?
Yeah, hold your applause.
cards, the use of credit cards that cause that differential?
No, ma'am, it wasn't, but
Okay.
we will get to credit cards, I
Okay.
promise. So. Refunds processed timely. First thing I did was I appointed a new refund manager. In 2009, they processed a backlog of 27,000 refunds for over $31 million. Commissioner Price doesn't like to hear that, but as I remind him, it wasn't his money. It wasn't the county's money.
I was just holding it. I was holding $31 million.
It's one thing that we hold it and make interest, but we weren't making any interest off of it. So
We
it's
just
just
pass a refund, and that's all.
we put the money back in the pockets of the citizens, and in this recession, most of them needed it, and they were thankful to receive it. In addition, the refunds department processed an 8-month backlog of our appraisal district supplements with an additional 40,000 refunds for exemptions and value changes. The other big project that we did last year was we reviewed and researched all our stale dated checks, and because of that, we were able to provide Dallas County with $3.9 million to go to the general fund. Property Property tax collections.
Wow.
As you are aware, we collect for over 70 city schools, PID, special districts, and countywide districts. 2010, we started collecting for the city of Irving. This spring, we will start collecting for the cities of DeSoto, Richardson, and Glen Heights, the Kendall Meadow PID, and the DeSoto Independent School District. This spring, we will also remove the City of Carrollton-Denton County accounts. We've been collecting for the City of Carrollton since 2003. They're split between Denton and Dallas County. Carrollton has asked that we take the Denton County accounts and give those to the Denton County tax assessor. It's less confusion for their citizens. They're appraised by Denton County. They should be collected by Denton County.
Is there no part of Carrollton in Collin County?
There's about 50 accounts in Collin County for the City of Carrollton. So yes, they are split between 3 counties. Because of this initiative to bring these additional entities on, we've brought in an annual revenue of $132,000. Implementation of the scofflaw program. I tell you, through the encouragement of Commissioner Cantrell, we were the first urban county in Texas to implement an innovative and comprehensive scofflaw program in 2009. 2010, we actually began serving the cities. Currently, Garland, Dallas, Mesquite, and Raleigh are in the program and successfully operating. We have interlocal agreements with DeSoto and Irving, and they're in testing right now. And then we have 5 other cities that have expressed an interest, and we're working with them to get them an interlocal agreement also. Year to date, we've refused 3,489 registrations. Now, we've only refused them until they've gone to satisfy those fines and fees, and then they come back and we've registered their vehicles. 2009 and 2010, the cities in this program have paid Dallas County to do this work $142,000. Now, that's split between IT and tax office. We couldn't do this program without what Dallas County wanted and the IT department. They're an integral part to this, and we appreciate their assistance. Motor vehicle improvements. This is my largest division. Motor vehicle accounts for 10 locations and about 150 of my employees. This past year, we contracted with AAA for vehicle registrations. They became one of our subcontractors. The subcontractors are like traditionally the grocery stores.
Right.
So if you have a current registration, you can go in and get your registration without having to visit a tax office. Well, with the closing of many of the grocery stores, we're losing subcontractors. We currently have about 65. AAA, we were one of the first counties in Texas to contract with them. They have 3 locations for us. We're looking at other businesses to determine who else can assist us with this process. We implemented a one-line concept for titles and registrations in most of our offices. So instead of coming into our offices and trying to figure out which line you were supposed to get in, you got in line, and the next person helped you do whatever needed because they're all cross-trained now. We utilized a branch analysis to improve staffing because adequately staffed branches and offices improves customer service. Our employee incentive program measures the accuracy, attendance, and production of the employees, and 63% of those eligible actually receive an incentive paycheck from us. That's a real big benefit to the tax office employees. I tell them they can give themselves a raise every single month by working harder, being on time, being productive. They meet and exceed the standards, they can get an incentive paycheck. All the branch facilities were refreshed. We have freshly waxed floors, freshly painted walls, and the clutter is gone. So when you come in the offices now, you feel like you're in a proud office, and I'm proud to represent them. One of the big things we did this year was we transitioned from being an agent of the Department of Transportation to the Department of Motor Vehicles. In 2009, the legislature took the vehicle titling and registration services away from TxDOT and created Texas DMV. And so that's a new agency. We're working with them, and they work with the other 253 counties in Texas.
How is that better?
I don't know if it's better. It's a different agency. It is nice because they are focused on titling and registration, dealer enforcement, issues like that. So they took it from a large TxDOT operation, who was a small piece of it, and made its own agency with its own director. They're much more in tune with us now. We communicate back and forth. In fact, we were one of only 14 counties they spent the entire day with to see our entire operation and took pages of notes on what we wanted fixed and changed. So we're working with the state on things like that. And next week, we'll be presenting a reorganization of the motor vehicle department that will save annually $264,000 out of my department's budget.
No, that's... Applause?
Well, hold it till the end.
All of the big numbers are
Hold it
coming.
till the end.
The end.
E-commerce. In 2009, the legislation said that we had to take credit cards for all property tax payments. The court decided that we would no longer absorb the credit card fees to take property tax payments anymore. When they did that, we went out for a full-service RFP. We negotiated a contract with J.P. Morgan Chase, which cost the county $0. The only way J.P. Morgan Chase gets paid is if they actually take a credit card payment and charge that convenience fee to the taxpayer. We used to have, Commissioner Dickey, about 10% of taxpayers paid with a credit card. We're down to about 5% right now. I will have to say, for the first time ever, though, we instituted e-checks. You can go online and pay with an e-check for 25 cents. Cheaper than mailing your payment in with a stamp.
That's the future right there.
That is the future, and we're seeing about half of our electronic payments are through e-checks right now.
Really?
We're in phase 1 of that, which means that you can go online and pay your taxes with credit card or e-check or debit card. Phase 2 will be that you can call in and pay, and phase 3 will be you can walk up the counter and we'll swipe it right there. So we'll be putting that in the next 6 to 9 months.
That's good.
That initiative right there saved Dallas County $5.3 million annually.
Whoa.
Oh, that's because it's credit cards.
Okay, so here's what we do for you. We fund 54% of the county budget. Ryan will say we don't fund it, we just collect it. So we collect it and hand it over. $378 million of that is for property taxes, $726,000 for special collections. Beer and wine fees are $390,000, and a little over $19 million for road and bridge fees. So Dallas County receives $398 million annually from the tax office. Through the other entities, the cities and schools we contract for, we collect $2.9 billion for them. For the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles, we collect $108 million. Through the Comptroller's Office, we collect $248 million. So totally, an impressive $3.7 billion runs through our office annually. We couldn't do it alone. We have our internal business partners, people like the security department who have been wonderful. Budget even helps every once in a while. Ryan knows not to come visit alone anymore. I tell you what, Daryl and his staff have been wonderful. Our outside partners, Linebarger Law Firm and the ACT programmers have been wonderful. J.P. Morgan Chase. Our mail vendor for our statements, NDSI, has done a fantastic job. In fact, they did such a good job for us, Tarrant County now uses them, but their statements go out the day after ours do.
There you go.
So,
Priority.
I do want to say that, as Henry Ford once said, if everyone's moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. So I appreciate the cooperation of all the elected officials and all the departments that make this successful. I have a wonderful staff, 229 employees that do a great job, and we've accomplished some amazing things this year.
Mr. Ames, you're really the model of efficiency.
The M word, you got to use the M word.
Yeah.
Management.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it, at the end of the day.
Somebody very wise says all the time, if you don't inspect what you expect, you won't get anywhere. And so we definitely inspect what we expect.
That was a wise person. But anyway, but those you know, and one of the things I really appreciate, I know as chairman of the tax committee over 20 years ago, we consolidated. We had a hard time, Ms. Sampson, convincing the city of Dallas. But once we got the city of Dallas, everybody else kind of came along for the most part. And you're continuing that. Here not too long ago, we were out of DeSoto at midnight as you were reeling them in.
Way past your bedtime.
Way past my bedtime.
Oh.
But
Never
I
sleeps.
Yeah, but one of the things I really appreciate you. I've just never seen such real efficiency in terms of how you run your ship, and you're really to be applauded. We did not realize the number of resources that were over in that office until you came along, and DeSoto's loss was definitely Dallas County's gain. You really have. You set the model, and we really appreciate it.
Just get up and bring it from Garland.
Are we ready? All right, guys, let's go.
Thank you for a good presentation.
You're
It was
welcome.
most
I know Judge
enlightening.
Jenkins and Dr. Garcia are scheduled for a tour. Commissioner Dickey's expressed that she'd like to have a tour. Be
Good.
happy to give a tour.
Well, we
We've
just
given about
post a
10
tour
of
and
them
we'll all
this
do it
year.
together.
So
Oh,
you
I
have
don't
to
know
post
about
it.
counting.
We'll do that there.
Post it.
Anytime, please come on over. Thank you all very
Thank
much.
you, Mr. Ames.
Well, when he on the weekend he talked about earlier, and again I want to thank Public Service
Yes.
painting all the paint, anything that he's done. Even on the weekend, we power washed some of the buildings. They They look
They
totally...
did. Public service has been amazing. When I got here, I said, what are our choices of paint colors? They said county white. I said, we have gray now. They said, well, it used to be county white. It's now county white.
That's
And you also have bilingual personnel, right, Mr. Ames, and all the
Several
customers?
bilingual staff members, yes, Dr. Garcia. But if we ever run into a pickle, we can call you,
I'll be
right?
more than happy to go back.
Okay, and I know Judge Jenkins now speaks Taiwanese, so that helps.
I'm trying.
Chinese, Mandarin.
Mandarin, that's right.
I thought I could speak Mandarin at the end of dinner. Before we move on, I also see Demetria Sampson in the back of the room with Linebarger. And they, although they are not county employees, they are our partner in collection and do an outstanding job. So I wanted to recognize her and anyone with their office who were here today as well.
I agree.
Let me echo on that. Linebarger, Goggin, Blair, and Sampson, we like to call the Sampson Law Firm. It's actually an extension of the tax office, and they really assist us on a daily operation of those delinquent collections.
Well, and the whole IT piece,
Yes.
that has made all the difference in the world in
Correct.
the operations.
We have a very extensive, innovative collection system that we're constantly tweaking and working with, and it makes all the difference in the world.
Right.
Helps with those efficiencies.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
Good.
Item 3, Health and Human Services. 3A, recommends approval of the Department of State Health Services Housing Opportunity Aid contract in the amount of $59,000 for February 1, 2011 through January 31, 2012. 3B, recommends approval of the Older American Act Program Contract Addendum for fiscal year 2011. Item 4, Communications and Central Services, recommends pursuing a partnership with the City of Dallas to replace the existing radio communication infrastructure in the county. The assessment from RCC Consultants is included in your briefing. It's this pretty blue book you have here.
Right. That's,
Mr. Weatherby
that's,
and Mr. Thompson are here to answer any questions they have.
that's a real no-brainer.
No-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. Had we gone down this road with this communication, I think I talked about this a year or two ago, maybe even longer, but $189 million probably what it would have cost us if we did try to do it on our own. The 72 million, I mean, we just couldn't even get there. The ILA says that our relationship with the City of Dallas is a 75-25 venture. And working on that 2013, which they tell me does nothing but narrow the bandwidth. That's all that 2013 deal does. We need to get to the next level. So, Ryan, I guess what I'm looking at, we need to get to this next phase, which they tell me the price has come down a little bit, but they tell me it's about a $1.3 million, and that our participation probably should be around $300,000 in that. As we move forward into the next page.
As we move forward, but as it's spelled out in the briefing, the City of Dallas is planning on picking up that piece of it with a reimbursement as we move forward.
Well, but it's $300,000 regardless with a 75-25 split.
Whenever that comes forward, I'll find the $300,000 bring it forward and go there.
Okay.
The real piece on this one, obviously, is the $57 million that would need to go forward if the city's successful in a bond election, when they choose to go forward with a bond election, to move on their piece.
Did I not see 157 million in that briefing?
It is, but roughly $100 million of that is for the City of Dallas.
Yeah.
Cost.
Oh, okay.
They actually had $137 million, $130+ million cost, but they're buying $30 million of portable radios that will work on the news system for the Super Bowl event. So theirs is right about $100 million at this point in time. But they do not have cash on hand or funding in place. They will do a bond election.
Well, if I don't doubt that this is timely and a necessity, but where are we going to get that money?
As I said,
By
assuming the city
2013.
moves forward with a bond election and
have
get
to.
approval, then we will need to follow it up with a tax note very similar to what we're doing with $45 million that will sell roughly April, May.
So we will need to raise taxes.
No.
No, I don't think
Tax note, so it would be funded out of our capital plan. It would have impacts as it relates to projects that we would need to discuss. But
Let's just put it out there. What we're going to be probably talking about, if we wind up having, depending on what happens with them, we're going to be talking about that beautiful 2021 date, where we talk about
Well, let's
Well-
be, that you say a tax note. I don't, what do you mean? What's your definition of a tax note?
A tax note is a financial instrument that you sell that you then use tax proceeds to pay it back. That does not necessarily mean we increase our tax rate to pay it back. We can do that within the current capacity.
We could do that in current capacity?
Correct, but it does impact, as Commissioner Price said, there will be a dialogue about either extending out past the 2021, or there'll be some dialogue about some transportation projects that may
Right.
be delayed
One of- yeah.
to make it work.
Right.
So we might be taking it out of MCIP then?
Oh, that's exactly where it come from, yes. And that's capped at 4.5 cents currently under policy, so we would just need to adjust accordingly.
We're going to have to see where the cities are with
No, I
their
agree.
money anyway, because it may not make.
Well, that's what I said. But look.
We may not have to go past that 2021.
Well, I understand, and I wasn't pushing that, I just try to, I was just throwing it up in the
I
air.
just want to make sure that we understand that we're saying we're going to move forward with planning.
Right.
That's all we're doing. And
We
then
all
we're
agree
going
with
to
that.
watch what the city does.
Right. Hey, look.
With the mayor election in May, they probably aren't going to put a bond election on at the same time.
Right.
So it will be the following May, more than likely, before they have an election. So we have
But-
some period of time to take a look at what we have.
But look, well, let's look, we're dealing on 70s technology here.
Correct.
We
Oh, yeah,
have
we
no
all
choice.
support it.
Well,
Our
we-
current system piggybacks with the city of Dallas. If the city of Dallas moves forward, we have no choice than to move with them.
right.
Because it's cost prohibitive to do it on our own, and unless you want to have officers out there without radios, which we don't,
Right.
then we have no choice.
I totally agree with
Yeah.
the statement, with that statement, Mr. Brown. It's time to do it. We cannot afford not to join the city of Dallas on this efficiency.
We're just on their time schedule.
Well, yeah.
No.
And so luckily, the
Intercommunication, we're talking about safety, we're talking about, disaster, we're talking about so many issues that you need the two-way radios.
And I'm just asking how we're going to pay for it.
the
That's
$300,000 would come from the major capital plan.
Yeah.
That's the only piece of only funding that we are right now making a commitment if we move forward. Obviously, there's the assumption that if the city of Dallas, as they move forward, we will come with them, which comes with that $57 million price. If that occurs in the next 24 months, then we would need to go out to the market, borrow money to cover the $57 million, and then pay that back through the 4.5 cents in our major capital.
Well, Ryan, don't we hope to get, didn't I read in that briefing that we're hoping to get some subsidy from Homeland Security grants?
I'm fearful, yes, we can certainly apply, we certainly should try as many places as
That's
we
nice.
can. The federal government is closing down on their funding sources for these type of items.
We probably will get some planning money, and that's probably about it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised because this is such a vulnerable area that this wouldn't be a real target for Homeland Security funds.
Yeah, but it's something called a Tea Party.
And it is a big sticker shock item. I visited with the Assistant City Manager of Dallas last week about this item. He's confident that one way or the other, through a funding source, they will be upgrading their radios. And as Ryan talked about, for those of you listening in who have not read all the briefings, we're piggyback. So if they upgrade and we didn't, our radios would be inoperable. Now, what this does, and it is mission critical to our Homeland Security, it's a basic building block of Homeland Security. We need radios that work when we need them to work, and we need full interoperability between departments. So we're going to have to find a way to pay for this the best way for the taxpayers, but it's really not up for discussion, and no one here is discussing that we will not do this because we've got to do it to keep our citizens secure, and our number one priority is to keep our citizens secure.
Thank you. Item number 5, District Clerk and County Clerk recommends revising Code Order 2010-1483, revision for funding for the Highland Suburban Workforce Solution Project. Funding is to be split between County Clerk and District Clerk's Record Management Fund. Item 6, Public Defender recommends approval of the design and run policy for the Public Defender's Office. I did hand you that policy this morning, but if you would look at your briefing, I believe it's on page 74. That is actually the resign to run policy. There's an item on there on the open bench. We're going to be pulling out that anybody who chooses to run, whether it's open bench or not, will run before they run.
And I am so glad we have this policy.
Yep.
That was a huge problem
Well, some
last
of us
election
supported it
cycle.
then, yeah, it's long overdue.
Is that going up for 30-day comment?
Yes.
We'll have to go off for 30-day comments, and then Item 7, IT. 7A, that quarter is on your formal agenda. 7B, recommend approval of the purchase of hardware and installation services to build wireless network access in Frank Crowley and George Allen. Funding is available in the DA forfeiture funds. This is part of our budget agreement with the DA's office.
Right.
Item 8, Public Works. 8A, authorized purchasing department to solicit sealed bids for the sale of tax foreclosed properties. 8B, recommends waiving the county public need policy in the city's sale of the tax foreclosed properties listed in the agreement and rescind quote number 2010-295 and receive additional back taxes from the sale in compliance with the county's public needs policy. Item 9, Budget. 9A is conference travel training requests. 9B, we have hiring freeze exceptions in district clerk and in operations. 9C. 9D, Budget recommends the deletion of a part-time associate judge in probate court number 3 and creation of a full-time associate judge for the probate court and request the human resource solicitor for proper classification.
A quick word on that one. I want to recognize some folks who are here. Let's see, Janie Metzinger, Matt Roberts, Sherry Cusimano, and Senior Corporal Herb Kottner. Some of them had to leave. We will be working on an assisted outpatient treatment protocol with the new Judge Payton, but we won't really be talking about that today. And there's meetings that Ron Stretcher is going to help spearhead to make sure that gets launched correctly. But thank you all for coming.
For the record,
That's
funding.
Funding is out of the probate.
It's not out of general fund.
It's probate escrow.
Okay, I just want that to be clear for the record.
And we will need to monitor that because that is one of the areas the state has talked about.
I understand. I understand.
Speaking of which, we'll go back now to 9C, the county's budget impact from potential state cuts. You received a quote from Mr. Brown earlier in the week.
I actually hate bringing this forward with the
Well,
we had and the tax office thing, and then I got to put this forward.
Well, I think no, and as I said, I asked for this over 60 days ago, and I think the reality is what the reality is. I mean, we've got to talk about it. It's real.
I did present this in an email format on Friday. I will give a quick overview of what it really is saying. So what we did was, the question was asked to me and to the auditor's office. I appreciate their information that they provided. If the state went and did a 25% cut on their grant funds, what would that mean? We received just over $100 million in 2010 in grant funds from the state. About $60 million of that was pass-through dollars. In other words, it was dollars that was given from the federal government to the state, and then the state passes it back through based on various formulas or a variety of different things. For the purposes of this briefing, I assume that the state is already taking their maximum allowed administrative costs off the top of that, so that those pass-through dollars would continue for this point for this discussion. That left us about $40.5 million that the state gives us from state funds. 35.5 of that is really what I would call true grants, where they're paying for direct services for us to provide direct services. And then about another $5 million of that is really where they're reimbursing us for expenses, and I broke those into two pieces. The $35 million really comes from about 7 agencies. The Juvenile Probation Commission is the largest with about $20 million. The Commission on Environmental Quality is about $10 million. State Health Services is $2.7 million. Auto Theft Prevention Authority is $1 million. Criminal Justice, $600,000. Community Justice, $400,000. And Attorney General State Comptroller, $300,000. Juvenile probation, obviously, that being the largest, a 25% cut would be $5 million. The majority of that money would be cut in 3 different places. It would be a cut in our juvenile justice program, where we do receive state funding plus funding from the districts for those kids that are expelled. In addition, we receive funding from the state because we run a school as a charter school out in our juvenile residential and detention facilities. The assumption in this article, or my presentation, is that if the state cuts those funds, which they will, that we will then change class size, we will change teacher makeup, we will lay off teachers and do what's necessary to keep the educational portion of those programs within the funding that the state provides.
I brought this up last night at the juvenile board meeting, and Dr. Smith is here, basically put staff on notice that because she wasn't there last year, the juvenile department made a $4 million contribution last year to our bottom line. To talk about making another $5 million cut is significant, and it talks about staff impact. We still don't know, again, how the whole merger of TJPC and TYC is going to impact, these bottom dollars as well. But I think what we're basically saying, we think this is the outside, $5 million and 24 staff people. More than that, it has $1.2 million general fund impact.
There's a direct general fund of $1.2 million because what we receive is reimbursement from the state. They call it a grant, but it's effectively reimbursing us for placement costs. And a 25% would be the $1.2 million. I think that's probably a good number. It may be a little bit larger because last year we did actually get an increase in our state-funded replacement dollars. So I know that won't be here again. So we will receive some shortfall in funding there. And that's on top of course, the $25 million shortfall that I had told you back in October we would have. Plus, February 8th, I'll give you your first true look of where we stand on revenue collection and expenditures for 2011.
That's why the unfunded mandate, getting our co-sponsors, they gave us additional funding for that because they were shutting those beds.
TYC, yeah.
And that's why they're combining TYC, in my opinion, right now.
I'm clear.
Because they are going to cut those dollars, and we don't have any place to send them then.
Yeah.
So that's an unfunded mandate.
I know.
The juvenile department really needs to be commended because I can remember days when we had 350 people in placement, and I think we're down to like 150, 140 kids in placement. And so, they've decreased their placement. At the same time, they've decreased the
we're in
kids to the youth commission.
Right, but we were incentivized.
That's right.
Yeah, and so that's what they did.
And they promised us we'd continue to get that money.
Right, that's exactly right. That was part of it, because what we now have is a level of youngster that ordinarily we would not have had, and I think that's Dr. Smith. That's the challenge now, because that if you remember in the presentation, we did the conversion in terms of Medlock, START. We took those programs that we massaged them to try to accommodate that level of child, a young person that we ordinarily would not have done. And again, that's what I tell Senator Whitmire. I understand what his concerns are, but he's driving that. Oh, yeah. He's driving that train.
If I may say, Judge, on another note, I talked to the folks at TCEQ yesterday, and I'm very proud to say that we got the grant for the on-road, which is wonderful. As you know, last week it was transferred to the Sheriff's Department, but we didn't know about the grant. We're very concerned about it. And this week, yesterday, we learned that we had gotten it, and I thought it was really interesting because they said that the reason for the delay was because they were told by the legislature that they had to cut $1 million out of their grants, and they didn't want to cut our grant. And so they had to look through all of the grants and find $1 million to cut elsewhere so they wouldn't cut ours. Yeah. So I think that's a real credit to Dallas County and to the program. And I just wanted to add that so that everyone would know. It shows what a good job they feel that the men on the Clean Air Task Force, men and women, have done.
And how much money is the grant? Do we know?
Well, it's an enhanced grant, and I don't know the exact amount.
Right around $400,000.
400,000.
3 additional officers.
Yeah, see that.
4 additional officers.
4.
And their equipment and vehicles.
Great.
Well, that's good news.
That's a good segue into the next grouping, which is the Commission on Environmental Quality. Dallas County as a region receives $10.6 million. The majority of those funds actually are passed through to COG because they are then funding the repair of the smoking vehicle program and also funding the Clean Air Task Force. So if that program was cut by $2.6 million, the assumption is that it would all come out of the smoking vehicle program that COG runs, so it would be those things. And that there is additional data in the House package of budget. They'd actually talk about taking almost all of that funding that was the funding for the repair of smoking vehicles and crushing of smoking vehicles.
Bless you.
The next group was the State Health Services of $2.7 million. That is being used to fund tuberculosis and sexually transmitted disease elimination programs. If there was a 25% cut there, it would be about $675,000. It would result in a laying off of approximately 15 health professionals. The Auto Theft Task Force is $1 million, so that would be $250,000 cut, and it'd be about 8 positions. I need to go back and look at that one, because I think the House plan was to cut that completely.
Yep.
Just basically pull that money in, and that's an additional fee that everybody pays when they do their car insurance. That goes to this fund, so I need to track back and see how they plan on doing
And what I understand is the state, we're still going to collect the money, but we're going to have to send it to the state. And that is something that we really need to stay on top of. We'll lose all that money.
For the LIRAP funding for the smoking vehicles is the same way. That's funds that are collected by Dallas County and other non-attainment counties that goes to the state that are technically supposed to come back to us for these types of programs, but they're talking about maintaining that.
I want us to be very strategic and careful, because it's the Shakespeare deal, I protest too much. And this is, while this looks to be significant, there are some things out there that are real significant. You know, okay. And I think we have to be real careful about how we really go. So we strategically need to talk about it and how we pursue this.
And I agree with that, but it is infuriating that they would be taking money
Absolutely.
that we've been using to balance our budgets, that they're not just going to take.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, and strategically, unless you get down into the bowels of it, real careful, because I'm going to tell you something. One flip of the pen, you think your budget got problems now? Just $40 million?
No, I hear that.
No, I'm just telling you. It's something.
And that ties in real well with the $5 million of reimbursement.
Let me say this, as long as we understand that those cuts have real impacts, and the county's not in a position to pick them up.
Right. Well, I agree. And that's great. I agree with that. I mean, and while LIRAP and all that is nice.
Oh, yeah, I totally understand that.
Yeah, operationally,
Right.
Other dollars that are out there are operational dollars.
LIRAP is what we're talking about, the replacement or repair of motor vehicles that are smoking, that are substandard, which, as you know, Dallas County has been declared a serious non-attainment area. So smoking vehicles are an especial problem to all of us. And I happen to think LIRAP's pretty important, but the state is taking this money that we collect, or is proposing to take it and keep it in Austin.
And at the same time, EPA is talking about reducing
Same
the
time,
standard.
we will be in
sales.
violation of EPA if we do this. So it's a catch-22. The one hand, they're taking the money away and keeping it down in Austin, or proposing to do so. On the other hand, EPA is getting down on us, and we will be in violation if we don't pay it. So we may be worried about this strategically, but it's a pretty doggone in-your-face problem.
The next really largest group of that type of thing has to do with dollars that we receive for running various programs out of our criminal court system. The DIVERT program being one of them, where the state is providing us funding for drug testing and those types of things. Once again, if the state had those types of funds, we would just have to limit the number of people who we allow into those programs based on the number of drug testing dollars available. The last real group is this $5 million worth of where we provide the service, and they're just giving us reimbursement. The largest one would be our indigent defense reimbursement of $1.6 million. We received $1.2 million in a jury supplement to help pay for the juries that we pay for. There's $1 million roughly for CPS attorneys and child-specific costs. The DA longevity falls in this group. There was a probate supplement, which we mentioned earlier, that falls in this group, but that comes to about $5 million. And obviously, if they cut that by 25%, that would be a $1.2 million impact. The net of the result of this theoretical impact of this 25% cut would be a decrease of about 50 positions, a program service cuts of $7.4 million, and a direct $2.6 million of loss of revenue to Dallas County. But the net, or the total would be right at that I guess it's $9 million.
$9 million. In addition to the $24 million. So,
Which, as I said, in 2 weeks, I'll let you know if that's changed.
Well, we would like to give you an applause, but Mr. Ames, it's not good news.
Tip them all.
Debbie Downer.
okay. Right, as I said, we've talked about it before, and it's a very difficult job, but I think we all need to be just put on notice. And I don't think 25% is unreasonable. I know Ms. Richardson, saw that 15% last week in the paper with regards to indigent. Is that what they're proposing? 15% indigent offense. That's already on the table. So 25% I don't think is unreasonable. I think we ought to at least prepare, and then we can always back into it.
Absolutely. And what, for closing commentary, that's just the $40 million. There's the $60 million that the feds pass through the state.
I know.
Plus there's direct dollars from the feds, which I haven't calculated yet. And we're all seeing what the House of Representatives is talking about. And so we should expect that as they move forward into their budgeting process later than the state, that we're going to see impacts as well. So I mean, we're going to get it from both sides.
And Ron, we appreciate the hard work that you do, and please think of all those department heads saying all those nice things about you is just their way of saying they appreciate you too.
Sweet, I don't drink tea. Anyway. I was big enough.
On that note, Judge, that concludes your briefing agenda. You have one speaker listed.
No, Mr. Martin, on the agenda item number 11 on the miscellaneous, I would like colleagues to delete item 12, which is for Road and Bridge fax machine. We're trying to streamline that office and doing some efficiencies. We found one that we're going to bring over here, so we don't have any need of that fax machine anymore, so $400 back.
Good job.
I know you appreciate that. Thank you, colleagues.
And we have one speaker today, one registered speaker, Mr. Terry James. Mr. James, if you would come forward, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes if you are here.
I'm here. Yeah.
It's your second no-show, Mr. James. If you're out there, one more strike and you're out. So please, sign back up. Actually, you can sign up and knock on the door.
No help.
Okay, all right. Well, this concludes, I want to do it until you know what you'd like to say. This concludes all but our closed session, and we'll now move to closed session.